Hi, everyone. Thank you for your interest in this presentation. My name is Shanna Lucchesi. I work as project coordinator for iRAP, and today I'll be presenting on CycleRAP. But first, let me tell you a bit about iRAP. iRAP is a charity organization that has this vision of a world free of high-risk roads. The products and methodologies we developed already help upgrade roads across more than 30 countries, influencing more than 1 million kilometer roads. We are currently active in over 90 countries with centers of excellence spread around the world. You probably heard about iRAP because of the iRAP star rating methodology. The star ratings are based on road inspection data and objectively measure a crash's likelihood and severity. We classify roads as 1 to 5 stars, where 1 star is the less safe situation and 5 stars is the safest. As a result of the star rating process, we can provide risk mapping, fatal and severe injuries estimation, as well as safer road investment plans to increase infrastructure standards for 4 types of road users: vehicle occupants, motorcyclists, pedestrians, and cyclists. iRAP existing star rating bicyclist model is a very effective tool for identifying where facilities are present on the road network, including what type of facility it is and its suitability for the traffic conditions. And the model indicates where the risk of vehicle-bicycle conflict is high and how to address it due to this safe road investment plans. However, it's a vehicle-oriented model. Therefore, CycleRAP model offers a complementary safety analysis method for routes and network used by bicyclists and light mobility users, bringing light to their perspective of safe infrastructure. It's quite a new model, and what I'll try to do today is explain a bit of the content around CycleRAP and give you a look inside the model and the mechanics of how it works, so you'll be better understand what it represents and what we can achieve using it. I'm aware that some of the content might be a little bit dense, so feel free to contact me later in case you have any questions or want further explanations. So to give you a brief snapshot about the model, it is a risk evaluation model for bicyclists and light mobility users. We aim with the model to identify high-risk locations and provide data to help reduce crashes and improve infrastructure safety for these transport modes. Like the other models that iRAP has, we want to apply CycleRAP model worldwide and in all type of infrastructure in an easy, affordable, and fast way of evaluating bicycle infrastructure for safety. It can be used independently or in conjunction with the other RAP models and other types of risk evaluation methods like the road safety audits. Well, we'll be looking for 4 different types of road crashes, providing more details on the other type of crashes that are not vehicle-bicycle crashes, as the bicycle star rating model address. So we have conflict between bicycles or light mobility vehicles, conflict with pedestrians, and single bicycle crash. And to do that, we will be looking for around 15 attributes that can be collected in all type of facilities. But the question is, why do we need it? Why do we need CycleRAP? Well, there is a problem that has been recognized around the world with cyclist crashes, especially with the single bicycle crashes. We know from hospital data that many crashes that are happening, between 60 to 90% of those, of hospitalizations related to bicycle crash don't actually involve a conflict with another vehicle. And many of them are not serious, accounting for 17% of the fatalities. The real issue, though, is the chronic underreporting of these crashes. When the crash doesn't involve other vehicles or users, it doesn't tend to be a police report. Many people call an ambulance, but the police will not attend, so no crash report will be prepared. And this led us to a big problem. We don't have relevant data, and cities are struggling to understand where risks are higher on their network because of this lack of information. It is hard to connect also how the infrastructure features contribute to the rate of crashes. And that is one of the reasons why cyclists are one of the significant challenges to cities reducing their number of crashes. And this is where CycleRAP comes in, because we rely on available evidence that came from really good research that we have tried to collect to indicate to cities the high-risk locations in the cyclist routes and help them to address that. The other reasons that is really driven the creation of the model is the rise of new mobility vehicles. And this has been common in every city around the world in the last few years. We have been facing many more high-speed light mobility vehicles, e-power scooters and e-power bicycles. There are also an increase of bicycling model share and a very evidence growing of delivery economies. And this also produces some changes in travel patterns and creates situations that are not so common when we think about commuting trips or recreation activities, like riding a bike at night. And finally is the response to COVID that led to the increase of the cyclist interest as an alternative to mass transportation systems. So CycleRAP initially came about in collaboration with SWAF and ANWB and the province of Friesland in 2014. So some initial work was published by SWAF and the model was tested in 170 kilometers in the Netherlands in 2016. Then further developments were made, and in 2017, 2018, we ran a second pilot. After that, we did a really extensive evaluation of the model based on a comprehensive literature review. And in 2021, we combined how the model performed in the pilots with the evidence from the literature review to create the second version of CycleRAP. That is the one that I will be presenting for you today. This version is still under development. We are in a pilot phase right now, and a very incredible number of people are overseeing the development of the model as part of the CycleRAP advisory group. So we have 21 organizations worldwide that range from research institutions to companies that conduct road safety assessments that are really looking into the model and helping us to develop it. So let's move to the fun part. And I like to start showing how the model is structured now. So the first thing we do in the model is looking at the crash initiation. The crash initiators are things like avoidance maneuver. Then we will look to what must be present for that crash that was initiated to really occur. So the crash triggers are features on the facility or the road in order to initiate the crash. So in the avoidance maneuver case, they will be like obstacles or other users or something the cyclist needs to avoid in the facility. Then we look at the range of things present in the facility that increase the likelihood that the avoidance maneuver result in a crash. In this case, it could be more than one obstacle, a narrow path, or a crowded facility. And then we look to what we can possibly happen as a result of that crash, the crash outcome. So continue with the avoidance maneuver example. The cyclist can, imagine that the cyclist cannot avoid and collide with the obstacles, or they can run off the path. And then we will look to the attributes that could affect the type of outcomes. So the conditions. If somebody runs off the track and there is an adjacent lane, the cyclist could be hit by a vehicle, but it could be also, instead of adjacent lane, could be a canal or a sidewalk. So the conflict will be a little bit different. And finally, we looked at the severity determinants. If there is a road lane and vehicles are traveling at high speed, we can expect a more severe injury. So the first half of the model represents the contribution for the likelihood of the crash, and the other half, how severe the impact might be. Well, so let's look more deeply to the crash initiators. We have 4 crash initiators. The avoidance maneuver that was used in the example before. 2 losses of control. One is related to speed, like when a cyclist is going downhill and have a sharp corner in the end. And the loss of control function is when something happened with the bike and the cyclist lose control, like if the wheel got stuck in a tram track or in a drain grill. And the fourth type is the vehicle impact. So the model assumes that an avoidance maneuver is always possible to happen because there are always, is very likely to have other users of the facility present. So the crash outcomes. What happens once a crash is initiated? Well, first, nothing might happen. The cyclist will be able to successfully complete the trip, but it can result in a fall or conflict with something in the way. The cyclist can depart from the facility, or in some case, depending on where the cyclists are and the conditions of the facility, they can have they can collide or they have an impact with a vehicle. So in terms of the avoidance maneuver, the first three can happen in any circumstances, and the vehicle impacts demand that the cyclists be riding in the road or have or are crossing an intersection or having a road lane close to the facility, somewhere where cyclists are exposed to vehicles. The loss of control speed can result in the fourth outcome. Still, loss of control function only can result in a fall or a conflict because we assume that the loss of function happens in that specific spot where the function is lost. Still, again, with the loss of control functions, it's only happening in a road crossing that could result in a vehicle impact. So the vehicle impact can only happen if there is a road present. And the vehicle impact one is also the vehicle impact outcome. So as I said earlier, the outcomes depend on the crash triggers, things that must be in there, and the contributing factor that increase the risk. So I'll present now all the contributing attributes for you to actually see everything that is involved. But again, I know that it's too much information, so I'll be happy to explain that more calmly in further opportunities. So crash triggers include things like major surface deformations or a drain opening, a presence of a fixed obstacle on the facility. So this could be a pole or a tree. An unfixed obstacle, this could be like a vehicle parked on the facility, but we also be looking to vehicle parking in adjacent to the facility. Intersection or road crossing presence, property access close to the facility, intersecting other bicycle facilities or pedestrian crossings. And things that will increase the risks are things like loose or slippery surface. So if you have ice or gravel, a poor delineation, a facility that is very narrow or as a two-way facility, if the facility is very steep, and we'll be looking for some operational attributes like the proportion of cargo bikes and mopeds, the peak pedestrian flows, the peak bicycle flows, the differential speed between bicycle and other light vehicles, and also curvature and street lighting. So avoidance maneuver is probably one of the more complex one. The loss of control speed is more straightforward and only include a few triggers and a few more contributing factors. For loss of control function, you need something in there that can catch the bicycle wheel, and you have things that make you less likely to avoid that in the first place or make it more likely that the crash will happen. And then the vehicle impacts. When the vehicle hits a bicyclist or a light mobility vehicle user. And these are the things that need to be there. Basic to be in the vicinity of a road, and then the things that is going to make more likely that the crash will happen. Now we are looking at the conditions and what come out of it. And here is where the 4 crash types that we looking into CycleRAP starts to appear. And we'll be calculating scores, producing scores for these 4 types of crash types. So the score will be representing how risky the infrastructure are for these conflicts to happen. So vehicle impacts will only result in conflict with vehicles. If you depart, or if the cyclists depart from the facility, They can either end in a conflict with a vehicle or a pedestrian, or also be involved in a single bicycle crash. In case of a fall or other conflicts, you can end in one of these, in all of these 4 crashes. But to understand the type of crash that will happen, or how risky it is, or how the risk increase, we have the conditions and the severity determinants. I will not go through all the conditions, but just to give you an example here, suppose the cyclist depart from the facility and there is an adjacent road lane recorded. In that case, the number of vehicles on the road, the mean speed, and the presence of heavy vehicles will act as multipliers to increase the risk and produce the score for the conflict with the vehicle. Similarly, if it's not a road lane but a sidewalk, or perhaps you can have both, the facility could be between a road lane and a sidewalk, which is prevalent in many cities worldwide, then the severity multipliers for the conflict with the pedestrian score will consider the bicycle speed, how steep the road is, the difference between a bicycle and other light vehicle speeds, and the proportion of mopeds or cargo bikes. To give you a better feeling of how the results will look like, I'm using the CycleRAP demonstrator here, and I will simulate a few scenarios. So you will see the score for the 4 types of conflict change when I start to introduce new features in the facility. The CycleRAP categorized the score into bandings. So we have 4 bandings, and the colors also change. So if the risk is low, the color will be green, for middle risk yellow, high risk pink, and the red color is for extreme risk. And if one of the crash types is classified as the worst risk, as you can see on the screen, the total score will also fall into this band. So in this case, single bicycle crash is classified as extreme risk, so the total score is also be extreme. Well, in this example, we have a 2-way bicycle path with 2 obstacles on it. So we have loose or slippery surface and measure the surface deformation coded as present. And the facility is also not wide at all, so it is less than 2 meters. But if we widen that path and transform into a one-way facility, the cycle-bicycle risk that was extreme before fall too high. And the 2 obstacles are still in there, but now the cyclists are less likely to conflict with them because the facility is wider. Now imagine that this path is in the vicinity of a sidewalk and a road lane. So we'll mark these 2 as present in the attribute categories. And as you can see, the vehicle bicycle scores go up, as does the bicycle pedestrian score. So I'm assuming that the mean speed of this road lane is 30 kilometers per hour with about 30,000 vehicles per day. That is not a very risky situation, not very severe. But if we include some street lighting, the scores go even lower. So we end up with a very safe situation. However, if we increase the speed to 50, you can see the score of vehicle-bicycle crashes going up again. So this just shows you what the model can do in a very quick demonstration and the effect of the attributes on the path. Here we are only looking at specific sections for this exercise, but the model is intended to be used linearly with 10 meters of increment. And this will give you a better picture of the conditions of the road and the issues that cyclists face when riding their bikes on a route. So this continuity sense is critical to understand the overall risk for bicyclists. We have a few resources that explain better the method and the specificities on coding the attributes and doing the assessments that I didn't have time to cover today. So feel free to get in contact with me in case you want to see those. My email and the CycleRAP websites are on the screen. So thank you for listening, and thank you for all the organizers of the Festival Road Safety to allow me to help you save more lives. Thank you.